Are you ready to discover the hidden power within and transform your life in ways you never thought possible? Today, we're taking you on a journey of self-discovery, healing, and wisdom. Joining me in the studio is the incredible Matthew Soden, a master in connection to wisdom of ancient traditions within the mysteries of the subconscious. Together, we'll explore how you can tap into the power of nature, plant medicine, and meditation to find your clarity, peace, and purpose in everyday life. Be prepared to be inspired as we uncover the hidden truths that can help you break free from limitations and embrace more meaningful and conscious existence. Are you ready to awaken your inner potential? Let's get started now. Welcome aboard The Nichole Show with host Nichole Hamilton. Our task is to educate, empower, and change lives. Join us for stories of resilience and rebirth. Honest talks that inspire and challenge you. Are you ready to make a move? It begins now. Welcome back, guys, to The Nichole Show. We have a very special guest in studio today. So
Julie? Oh,
I don't know.
I'm excited. I'm really excited.
Look at this beautiful man. So for those that are not just listening, who are actually watching the YouTube, watching the video, I have my dear friend, Matthew Soden. He is a musician, a producer. He's my friend. I've known him for over 10 years, I'm pretty sure.
Yes. Yeah, well, we've known each other forever, but we met 10 years ago.
Correct. And we're just kindred spirits, and we have no agenda today, but Matthew has been a bit of a mentor to me, my family, my kids in so many creative ways. And so we're just going to start at the beginning today, because that's what the podcast is about. It's really about taking the mask off some of the social media aspects. It's about diving deep into some vulnerable conversations. And for me, connection is the biggest part of human experience. It's finding like-minded souls that we can connect to and share our experiences with. And this beautiful man has been a friend of mine and helped in many ways. So I'll get you to introduce yourself in just a sec, but Matthew has helped me with meditations, with creating my own unique tracks for some experiences as well. So don't forget to look those up in my socials as well, or if you want them, comment below and we will definitely get back to you, or if you have any topics that you want us to cover. But yeah, Matthew, I'd love for you to just give a little bit of an overview on who you believe you are, your concept of who Matthew is, and then we'll go into some beautiful topics.
Okay, well, I was born in England and I emigrated with my family. I first sought a career in high finance, which certainly did not suit me at all. So I turned my back on that. I turned my back on a marriage, family, in order to become an artist, I guess, or a seeker. Art is part of the seeking, but yeah, like most of us, I was looking for the answers to being happy and being healthy and finding some deeper truths in life rather than just being involved in a capitalist system which simply didn't satisfy me. I wanted to know deeper truths and the natural truths of the world, not the man-made truths, the natural truths. And I believe that's what we have to get back to. Sometimes you've got to escape your culture in order to fully realize yourself.
100%. And just what was dropping in as you're expressing some of your, seeking and your truths, I do remember one of our first encounters was through the school system, through the private education system. You were a musician, music teacher there.
Yes.
And my boys, for whatever reason, wanted to learn like music, but I do remember you being in the schoolyard and just surrounded by children, just with your guitar, sitting there just so authentically, making up tunes and singing with them, and just with this flock of children around you, and just, having that energy. I guess that's kind of what captivated our our connection.
It
It's just your
was
authenticity.
fun too, wasn't it? I guess I was the Pied Piper of St Columba, which I'm not sure was completely agreeable to the establishment there. They'd rather somebody a little more conservative. I always insisted on using my first name rather than being addressed as Mr. Soden,
Yeah.
which again was not really compatible with their way, but I did I did it in my fashion, and I think it was reasonably successful. There was a lot of students who found the confidence to perform at assemblies and in the class, and we got some really good results. So
Well,
it was a happy time.
100%,
It was a happy
100%.
time.
I've seen you thrive with working with our youth, with our children, and that led to you leaving and us following you to your private studio. And the boys both, they're not musicians now, but they did try it, and I fully encourage that. But I've for those obviously who know, the kids coach, if you're watching or hearing me for the first time, work with children. I've sent many children your way for inspiration, for music help, for putting songs together, for compiling things, and for being those performers, and your ability to just captivate what they really want to put into their growth, to their creation, makes such a unique, a different style of teaching. So I'd love for you to share, I don't know, how did you get to that point? Like, you obviously left the school system to do more. But how did you know to just do it in a different way? To be able to, and there's not just for children, but for adults, how do you know how to connect and draw the best out in that realm?
Well, I'd have to credit my mother initially, because she was a great teacher. I was fully literate and numerate before I reached school, because she spent every evening with me reading. And what I realized was that the greatest power in teaching was, as you know, teaching one-on-one. In a classroom, we're trying to deliver a lesson which is one size fits all, which it doesn't. It suits probably 10 or 12%, and it doesn't work for the rest. I had that unique position where I was, as a visiting instructor, teaching one-on-one. And I firmly came to the conclusion that everyone is a genius. It's just that it needs somebody to help facilitate and extract that. And the shy child will be left behind at school. The marginalised one, the different one, will get left behind. But in fact, they tend to be those with the greatest abilities.
Correct.
And if you can connect and work one-on-one, we'd have so much of a better world, because I think virtually everybody is born good and everybody is born a genius. Sure, there can be some poor connections in the brain, and maybe the odd, I hate to say evil, but damaged person comes about, but they can be saved too. Yes, one-on-one. We're all geniuses.
And I would strongly suggest you guys look up some of Matthew's work, and we'll have the links underneath. But some of the productions that you've made with some of the beautiful kids, like just their authenticity that comes out. And I think I've even got videos of my boys of just with their makeup on and performing and giving it a red hot go. And my boys didn't follow through, or didn't have their passion in music, but just seeing them encouraged when that's what they wanted to do is so important, a part of the learning process. And having somebody that's so open and unique to help guide them really does help in the community. Like, finding those people where your children connect to is one of the hardest, but yet the most rewarding thing, to find those like-minded role models that put that love and modeling into it.
And we have to offer children a whole menu of potential activities to find out what they're going to gravitate towards. be it sport, music, art, sculpture, whatever. I think that's really important, and some of their activities they'll follow through with, and others they won't. But they'll find themselves by being given opportunities, obviously.
Correct.
And that's what we have to do. I don't have my own children. I used to be one, and I still am. And so working with youngsters keeps one young.
Correct. And I feel like, when we are all parents regardless of we've actually biologically created our own, because
Absolutely.
you get to father us, you mentor me, you mentor my children, all of them, and it makes a beautiful impact. But going back to you, so going through finance, leaving your marriage, and then how did you find or continue to follow your passion into this, music and realm and self-discovery, because that's a really big pull, and you and I have such gorgeous conversations because you are so knowledgeable. But how did you find, like, how did you continue with that want and that calling into music and your self-development, which we will get into because this is going to be a multi-part series. But yeah, how did you keep going into that realm, because it is your passion?
It's a very relevant question, and the answer is this: if I ever tried not to do it, my subconscious would trouble me, such that the motivation was simply there. If I didn't go traveling to learn, if I didn't write songs or write, I'd be troubled deep within myself, because I believe our subconscious is our driver, and it needs a voice.
I love that.
It needs a voice, and if I don't give it a voice, it gives me hell.
What a simplification of that. I guess I've been going through a little of my own journey in that self-expression and really, finding my wholeness. And when you do deny certain parts of yourself or whatever else, you do get uncomfortable.
You suffer.
You do get miserable, or something happens, and so that is just for anybody listening. If you are in a place of unhappiness or suffering, then there is a calling there for you of something else. Like, it's happening for you. So that discomfort, that unsettling, that pain, or whatever you're going through, it's literally a warning sign of there's something else for you. Like, you're meant to be learning or trying or doing something else.
I couldn't agree more. And the way our society has developed, we've become very, very superficial and focused on the material, whereas I found with my involvement with more original people, indigenous inhabitants of different countries, they're closer to their subconscious. They sing, they dance, they chant, they commune with whatever spirits they perceive. They allow themselves to go deep, whereas we seem to be trained to not go deep, to keep it superficial, work 9 till 5.
9 to 5, earn the dollars, and create the family, and then that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And think that you've got freedom of choice because you can vote Labour or Liberal or go to Coles or Woolworths. That is not freedom to me. Yeah. Freedom is accessing the subconscious, and all of the knowledge of the world is there. We carry the genes of every animal that's gone before us through evolution. So to me, the answers really are within. But we have to work to get there. It doesn't come out easily. As you know, meditation is not easy.
It's a challenge for me every time.
Every time. And much like running or athletics, you have to work it every day, faithfully and with an open heart, and the results come through. You know that. We both know that. 100%. But we learn about ourselves, and our subconscious settles down because it goes, somebody's listening.
Correct.
Somebody's listening.
Correct. So for me, hypnotherapy was my calling. I went through my addiction and nothing, no conscious counseling was working. And so accessing my subconscious honestly felt like the aha moment. It was literally a teacher and a guide asking me the questions in that transformational state that helped me access my resources to my growth and my learning. And I haven't stopped studying since. What was your first access to that subconscious, to that part of you to keep you going through your journey? Because I know you've been through multiple.
Yes.
What was your first time of like, I need to access more of that? How do I find that? What was your first calling?
Now, I became very, very interested at a young age, preschool. I used to ask my mother to get books from the library, and generally they were what's to be expected, Hans Christian Andersen, C.S. Lewis. But soon I wanted answers about how the universe came about, and even into what I don't like to call the paranormal. Are there ghosts? Are there spirits? Is there a God? These sorts of things. And I was asking those questions preschool, which weren't well answered at all. So later in life, I found a hypnotherapist. He was an elderly surgeon, a beautiful man who could no longer practice surgery because his eyesight was letting him down. He was in his 80s by then, but wanted to continue healing. So he taught hypnotherapy. And the pivotal moment for me was when I asked him about pain control. And we were really well connected at that point. And he said, go into your trance. And he was that good that I was gone. He said, stay in trance and open your eyes, which I did. And he actually, I'll take my gloves off, demonstrate what he did. He pinched up my skin like this. And then, no, I'll go back. He said, I want you to freeze your hand. That's all he said. So within my inner vision, I could see ice cubes and blue Arctic water. That was my way of freezing my hand. So he said, yes, freeze your hand and nod when you've achieved it, which I did. I nodded, and then he pulled up the skin there, and he got out a great big needle and went straight through.
Oh my goodness.
And I remember looking at this and the needle sitting there, and I cried with laughter. It was so beautiful. It was so utterly beautiful that tears were running down my face because it was a slightly magical event.
Wow.
He then said, now I'm going to take this needle out and I don't want you to bleed on my furniture. So you go back into your deep trance and shut off the blood supply there. That's all he told me. Didn't give me any method. So I went back into my inner vision, my subconscious, and I found this great big tap. It was like one of those, can you imagine those big round stopcock type taps, which probably control huge amounts of water. I saw this tap and mentally I turned it off, nodded. He pulled the needle out and there wasn't even any marks, let alone blood. And that really did bring it home, the power of the subconscious, of suggestion, and one's own ability to control
I love that.
your body. It was beautiful.
I love that. So with that beautiful and euphoric feeling, knowing that you could, control your pain and the blood, and this is from your teacher, is this when you decided to start studying hypnosis yourself, or?
Well, certainly it gave me the confidence to do it, and perhaps the desire to share it with other people. Yes, I thought it was a very important tool to have because we do have wonderful medicine, But we have to meet it halfway. We have to do our bit. It doesn't matter what the situation is regarding your health. We have to put in a lot of effort to maintain our health. And again, I think we've developed a very superficial society where we go, doctor, heal me.
Correct.
Give me an antibiotic and I'll be on my way quickly. Well, I don't think healing comes that quickly.
No, it's a work in progress,
yes.
And we all have been hypnotized or conditioned to think that we need a medicine or we need something to heal us. It's really interesting that you say that, because I've been trying to instill in Aurora that her body can heal anything. So for those that know me as well, Aurora's nearly 4 and she's been quite sensory, and she stopped eating for a while there. She was just eating yogurt and milk and ice cream. And she started herself again. Like, we did go to the doctors in the normal Western way, and like we just, took her to all these different specialists. But I don't know, the deep inside of me, I kind of thought she'll grow out of this, she'll learn it, and she has. And the mantra or the philosophy that we've been saying is your body can heal anything. And, just by, reassuring her that and putting that in there, that, that beautiful belief, her body has now been able to eat healthy foods. And we've been pointing out when she's been, her body has been reacting to those healthy foods and healthy bowel movements, and she understands that. And I think it's such a beautiful thing that we're so not taught in this world, that our body can be sending us messages and can go through its own healing journey and what it needs. So
you're right. And again, because we're such a commercialized world, everything is commodified, such that your health, your medicine is something that you have to go and buy and consult somebody else about, which to a great extent is true, but we can take on a lot of that responsibility ourselves through taking the time to learn about ourselves, through learning deep trance meditation, as you and I both practice, and we have more control. We have more control. I certainly don't deny the wonderful medicine that we have. I can't fix a broken leg through hypnotizing myself.
No, of course not.
I need some professional help. But equally, the hypnosis will help because it will relax me. I never have an anesthetic at the dentist. It's unnecessary. I put myself in a trance and it works. It works.
You missed your calling there. You could have made millions and just sat with people and put them into trance while they're at the dentist. They've got such a fear. Such a fear.
Again, fear, and I think you've hit on something so relevant there. We're brought up into fear, either through the authorities, through religion, through poor parenting, a culture of fear, which is reprehensible to me. It needs to be a culture of nurture and endowing confidence into people that they do have control over their lives and that their lives are not totally run by a government or a doctor or a teacher or an employer.
Or education, correct. I was having a conversation earlier today, like we are force-fed that the hierarchy that be, yet we forget that we can advocate for our own wants and desires and freedoms for our children and for ourselves. And so, yeah, I highly recommend going on your own self journey for what feels right for you and your family. But yeah, it's through the challenges that I've gone looking, and obviously through your challenges that you've gone looking for different avenues of healing and support and different teachers. So I would love to just dive in a little deeper, because I know a lot about you, and I do want to, as I said, mentioned before, do this as a multi-part series. But you have literally traveled so much and done so many, been into so many different places and spaces, and from the memories that I have had, you've been out into the Aboriginal tribes and had some beautiful connections and taught the kids out there. Yes. You were in a Buddhist monastery there for a while?
I did study the Dharma for 6 weeks in a monastery in Shinrezik, which is in the hinterland in Queensland. A very authentic Buddhist monastery. It could have been Tibet, though it wasn't
And
that
then
cold.
the stuff, the conversations where I really do want to eventually dive into is your beautiful internship or apprenticeship in Peru with, you know, the different healing modalities from there. But I would love for you to just organically, you know, share with us what's really drawn you on your journey of these different philosophies and healings, and how you've brought that back here to Australia, because you're just so unique and so authentic. And every time we have a conversation, I personally learn something myself. So,
Well, that works both ways, Nick. That works both ways.
but I'd love to know, like,
I'm learning from
you know,
you.
this hypnotherapy, you know, I guess that's where we bonded and talked about the unconscious and the power of, you know, expanding our minds. And I would love to know, you know, yeah, like what was the next biggest thing for you, and in your healing journey, and why there was that continual
Drive.
yeah, that drive to go there.
Well, dissatisfaction in the philosophies, the teachings that I was finding in Western culture, in popular culture. I don't dismiss all of those teachings, but I tend to, for want of a better word, cherry pick the best from an element of Buddhism, an element of Zen, but I will not subscribe to any one thought system, because I find that is too narrow and it's too static. We're evolving. We've got a long way to go. So to say, well, I found myself in Buddhism or whatever, to me is simply not enough, because that culture is not evolving. It's relying on some perceived ancient wisdom, which I don't dismiss. I take a little bit of that. But so important to evolve and to keep on evolving our thinking forward. We've got a lot of work to do on this planet. We're not in good shape. There's a lot of strife, there's war, and there's environmental degradation. So we really have to evolve beyond the sort of societal norms that we've been placed with. The government won't do it for us. Woolworths won't do it for us. But we will do it for us.
Correct. And I feel like, you know, that if you follow your gift, follow your passion, that we can fill in the niches where the big societies are not. And I guess that's where, you know, my concept came from, is, you know, working with the youth as a kids coach, is like, well, I can see the systems that are not working. How do we do better? And the only way for me to continually do better is to show up and show you all my mistakes and all my learnings that I've gone through, you know, in this lifetime. Is, you know, how can I be a better mom, a better human? How do I, you know, come back to that? How do I teach? And that's literally from, you know, sharing my life's journey online and in these places, so that other people don't feel so alone. So on that, I would love for you to share something that you would like people to know, because, you know, your journey is very unique, and I'd love some of the stories. But what has been your biggest challenge, your biggest despair, and how did you navigate through that?
I'm just musing on that. Well, I think our greatest friend can be ourselves, but certainly our greatest enemy can be ourselves, because we're very good at procrastinating, talking ourselves out of doing something, deciding that we're not capable, or that it's better not to take a risk. So I think my biggest challenge has really been overcoming my own fear or lack of motivation. I am motivated, but there are times when I'm down and I have to pull myself up and get going again. And it is driven by my subconscious, because if I don't act, then I'll feel physically and mentally out of sorts.
Yeah.
And I know that I have to act and keep on going. I've also had to learn to not devote my life to trying to please people.
Yeah.
The best way to please people is to be truthful, and yet I feel that in many ways my life has been rather fraudulent, in that I've always tried to be amenable and agreeable, and that's not always honest or practical. Somebody may tell you something and you agree to keep the peace, but really you know that it might be a falsehood, or that you don't agree, and one can lose one's self-esteem by always being agreeable.
Yeah.
Not that I think we should be sort of dissenting and aggressive. Far from it. Far from it. I think we can be gently and politely disagreeable.
Well, we can speak our truth and set our boundaries, and these are the things that, I had to go searching for too. I wish at a young age someone had told me that I was worthy and enough, because for many years through, schooling, and I do believe schooling creates multitude of our problems.
Oh, absolutely.
Not all, but multitude.
Absolutely.
And I people please from a young age to feel fit in with the clique.
As did I.
And it wasn't until my 30s, or even I guess younger 20s, that I started realizing who Nichole could be or was, and I felt comfortable enough to start showing different parts of me and just being authentically myself. And I feel more authentically myself now at 43 than I ever have, but that has been a work in progress of, again, realizing my yeses and my nos, and finding those really bad parts of discomfort. I too have struggled with depression and mental health and not being able to get out of bed or do different things, and that from that discomfort, I've then, dug deep and gone, okay, where's my next lesson or my next learning from? And I've had multiple teachers. So for you, what are your non-negotiables that you do for you to stay in a beautiful, in the best possible version of yourself? What are some of the things that
I have to do, you mean?
Well, then I think that the philosophies are the things that you do for you to be, to be the best Matthew you can. What are some of the things? If somebody else is listening and they're like, oh, I'm stuck in that place that they're talking about, I'm feeling, not good. What are some of the things you do to?
Well, the principal thing would be health. So exercise is absolutely vital for me to start my day. I have to do some physical movement, be it walking, running, or some light gym work. I think the mental health tends to follow the physical health.
Yes.
So I have to exercise every day, and it would be a rare day that I didn't exercise because I might be ill or injured or something like that. So not exercising or not meditating is non-negotiable.
Yeah, I love that. And these are free things that we can say time and time again, but people don't realize the huge health benefits that it has.
Absolutely.
From moving your body and spending some quiet time, either meditating, listening to music, whatever is right for you. But those two things for me as well. If I don't do that, my ability to regulate, if I haven't exercised for a couple of days, it just goes out the window. And that is my me time, and it sets me up to have capacity to hold space and do all the things that I love.
We have to do those things, and as I'm sure you've heard many times, people will say, oh, I don't have the time, which is really quite incorrect. It seems to me there's at least 100 waking hours in the week.
Oh, I get up earlier to have my me time. That's my non-negotiable. I have a really stressful week this week. People who do follow my socials know that Abs's mum's passed, so we've got a funeral The boys have had, like, my eldest had his 18th. I've had so many extra things on in this last couple of weeks. We're selling this house, so we're getting things ready. So my, like, every waking minute has been busy with something. But my non-negotiable this week was get up at 4:30 and get to the gym. Like, that is my non-negotiable for me.
Yes.
And I could press snooze. Trust me, I don't mind a sleep in. I like a snuggle. But, you know, that is my non-negotiable, and it makes such a difference on my mental health.
Well, we're absolutely in agreement on that, because for me, that's where it starts. So I need to get my body moving before my active little brain kicks in and takes over.
100%. And I could diverse, and there's probably 1,000 things that I do want to ask you, Matthew, but I'd love for you to share like another story that you just feel called to share, because again, like, there's so many things, so many facets, so many interesting parts about you, but knowing that this is hitting the ears of parents and coaches and you know, fellow entrepreneurs even that are listening, like, what is a story that you feel called in your heart to share with my listeners today?
Okay, actually, I do have well, as you know, I have a wealth of, I call them object lessons, and much like fairy tales, a good story has a deeper truth.
100%. I'm all ears.
I love them. So this particular narrative involves a young man who decided very early in life he needed to know the secret of happiness, of eternal happiness. And perhaps he didn't fit in with the mainstream. And there was this burning desire to find the secret of ongoing, everlasting happiness. And of course, he took off on a journey all over the world seeking it. And he sought it in Buddhist monasteries, and he sought it here.
I might know this fellow.
I might even know him. And eventually his travels, he didn't find what he was looking for, but his travels led him to a small country called Bhutan, which is in the foot of the Himalaya mountains. And he noticed that the population there were it's a small village, were very serene and calm and well adjusted. And they lived a very simple lifestyle. And they welcomed him as a Western visitor. And he said to them, he told them, I'm looking for the secret of everlasting happiness. And they said, oh, it's easy. And he said, what, you know? And they said, well, yes, we know. We have a wonderful benefactor who has taught us this, and we just consider it common knowledge. And of course, this young man, who was perhaps a little older by then, was terribly excited. He said, I've got to find this out. I've got to find this out. How much does it cost? They said, it doesn't cost anything. How do I meet this man? Can I meet this man? Yes, certainly you can meet this man.
Hey everyone, Nichole here, and I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I just want to take a quick moment to talk to you all. If you're finding value in our conversations and loving the raw, honest dialogues we're having here, I've got a small favor to ask. This podcast is a passion project for me, and there's nothing I love more than bringing these stories and insights to you. So if you haven't already, would you consider subscribing to our show and leaving a review? It's completely free and it doesn't take much time, but it really helps us in two big ways. It's getting the podcast in front of more listeners, which keeps our community growing. It helps us attract more amazing guests, which means we give you more value in the episodes we bring to you. Just hit that subscribe button, drop us a review, and let's keep these conversations flowing.
Will he tell me the secret of everlasting happiness? Of course he will. He'll share it with you. But why would you want to know? And the young man was astounded. Oh, isn't it obvious that that's what we're pursuing? And the village people said, fine, we will send you to our benefactor who lives separate from the village, and you can ask the question. But you must know that this is an arduous journey to get to where this man lives. You will cross 2 steep, sharp mountains, and you will have to cross 2 freezing cold rivers. The first mountain, the first river. The second mountain, the second river. And if you make it that far, halfway up the third mountain, you'll find a plateau of green grass with the rock face behind it, a natural microclimate, and that's where our benefactor lives. And it is really beautiful. But the journey is arduous and dangerous. So you have to look in your heart to make sure that you really want to know the answer to eternal happiness. Well, he said, I do. So the villagers were really kind. They provided him with bedding and suitable foods and clothing for him to make this trek, which would take normally about 3 days. Wow. They also provided him with rice and dried fruits, which are the gifts that they would take to the benefactor when they visited him, which is simply natural. Much as you and I, if we went to a party, we'd take a plate of food or something like that. So he set off on this journey, well prepared and very excited and very energetic. And in fact, he did well. He crossed the first mountain, he got across the first stream, he got across the second mountain and got across the second stream. He's getting pretty tired by then. Pretty tired, pretty cut and bruised, but he was determined. So the last descent was the third mountain. And just as he felt that he couldn't go any further climbing this mountain, it flattened out into this beautiful plateau, which was green, and there was flowers and trees and vegetables growing, and there was, which had brought the animal life in, there was birds singing. And there in one of the vegetable plots was this elderly fellow who was what the village called their benefactor. And the fellow looked up and was very friendly and said, "Hello, my son, what brings you here?" "Well, I'd really like to have a conversation with you, sir. I bought rice, I bought dried fruit." And the elderly man was very, very grateful. So they went and sat together. And the elderly man said, "Well, my son, what is it you need to know?" And the young man said, "I need to know the secret of everlasting happiness." And the benefactor smiled and said, "That's easy. The secret is to never argue, and never disagree." And the young man went, "That can't be the secret. That can't be the secret." And the old man said, "You're absolutely right."
Yeah.
Let it sit with you.
Yeah.
Let it sit with you. It's a beautiful little story, and I think of it often. And there's a really deep truth in there.
Yeah.
But yes, I think some of the best wisdoms, I find them in Grimm's fairy tales. I find them in all sorts of folklore.
Yeah.
Because folklore has a long history and long tradition. That doesn't mean to say that it's all right or all relevant, but we are creatures with freedom of choice.
I love that.
And to me, the world, well, it's very open, isn't it? We can either travel it or we can travel it digitally. And if we're wise and seek out the right sources, all of mankind's knowledge is at our disposal.
Yeah, 100%.
We have to be discerning and not misled. And again, I think that's where our subconscious comes into play, in as much as I think it's very, very wise. It's much older than us. And that's why I believe through, again, what we practice, a deep trance, a meditation, that the subconscious will give us answers.
Correct.
And will guide us in the right direction.
Yeah.
And to me, that is vital. That is my lifeline. But nobody in the education system taught me that.
100%. Or our parents.
Because
they didn't know.
My friends didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to set off on my own journey, and I did. As I told you, I spent time in the monastery. I also inhabited other belief systems. I think it's not enough just to read about something. I think one has to inhabit it.
Yeah,
so I spent time with different belief systems, spiritualism, religion, all sorts. And by practicing them and inhabiting them, I was then able to, I didn't want to belong to anything, and I still don't want to belong to anything apart from myself, but I take away what is relevant.
Correct.
For me. And I think that is perfectly reasonable and perfectly respectable.
Yeah, I love that.
To do that. I would hate to be called a vegan or a Buddhist or
a label. You don't need a label.
Yeah, I really do reject that. And it's not that I consider myself that special. It's just too restrictive.
Yeah.
As soon as you put on a label, then you've got to live up to it or live up to society's perception of it. And that robs you.
I think that's why I've kind of come at, to create this, is to give voices to all those different parts of everybody's journey, because the kids coach for me became so restrictive because I was putting this, one side of me out, this one facet, which I do love, and I wholly, encompass teaching our kids these different practices. But by being able to escape the labels and talk about all different realms and all different places, I've done energetic work and crystals and pendulums, and I've studied the Bible and, worked at, Catholic schools as well.
Yes.
There's been so many different facets to me, but not one certain place just fits. There's not one just, exact place. So if you can continue to learn and grow and take what you like, and that's what I always say in my trainings, take what you like from me. Like, if I use a different word and you don't like it, replace it.
Yeah.
But, take your own learnings and then add to it. That's what human beings want. We want to connect through our words, through our body language, and grow from that. And then, make it your own. Make it your own.
I couldn't agree with you more. I'm completely in concurrence with that. And that is why I tend to reject formal teachings, religions, and thought systems, because they simply don't evolve.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of good ancient knowledge, but there's a lot of good modern knowledge.
Correct. Blend it all. I just love
Absolutely.
it. And I love making it fun. I guess that's why I'm so drawn to kids, because kids don't even think. Like, they just leap in. You can make something out of a piece of string, something, a bit of glitter, and they can make happiness.
You're absolutely right.
Out of nothing.
And the joy of a child is receiving a present, taking the present out of the box and putting it aside, and playing with the box.
Correct. What's in the box?
That is true subconscious genius.
Joy.
Whereas an adult wouldn't do that.
Now,
the adult discards the box and quickly gets out the iPhone and goes on Tinder or whatever. Whereas the child goes, I can do something with this box.
Correct. I can play. I can enjoy it.
Yes, and I can create via it, because if I got a big box, well, that might be a sled or a car or a cave or
I love that.
anything. And that is the beauty of childhood, in that our brains are polluted by education and expectation. They're still very natural.
They are.
And we have to learn from children and animals.
Yeah.
And I learn a lot from observing animals because they have their ways and they've been doing pretty well for a lot longer than us.
And isn't that interesting that the first meditation that you and I have put together is a spirit animal meditation?
Yes.
So we will put the link underneath here as well. So again, Matthew helped me create my own beautiful musical track to the back of my meditation, and we use both of our energies.
Wasn't it fun?
It's amazing. I can't wait to create some more with you. But we literally listened to the track, you know, divulge what wanted. I listened to it, took out a few different bits and pieces, and then just freestyled. And the sounds and the backing, it was just pure magic. And it's made for families and for children. And there's a visual to it as well as the audio. But it is around learning from animals, because I believe that every animal has a energy about them. They have something that they can teach you. And when we, you know, if you look into spirit animals and their messages, or just innately feel into an animal that you particularly love, there'll be an attribute that you resonate with. And so whether it's, you know, the elephant that never forgets, they're super wise, or the owl, or, you know, the dog that's protective, there's so many things that we can draw upon, and that is your wisdom saying, I want to learn about that.
Yes.
And it takes us to a place. So I love that you brought that up, because we'll pop that in there.
And I think you'd agree that the natural world, which unfortunately is disappearing as quickly as we speak, but really there is so much knowledge, joy, medicine
in the natural
world.
There is. There absolutely is.
Just to walk along the beach or through a forest can be healing. But deeper than that, there are the plant medicines and the deeper understanding of how nature works and the interconnectedness of it, that I think is an important lesson for us who we do regard ourselves as rather superior. We feel that we've conquered nature and we haven't. We must go back to learning from it, from its subtle, gentle grace and beauty. And the more we learn about how plants are connected underground through the mycelium of fungus, and they're communicating.
I love your wisdom, because I don't know anything about that, but I do know intuitively I have been drawn way more to the medicines of the earth and the plant medicine, rather than the synthetic ADHD medications, and just finding my own intuitive way. I feel like that the more that you start your evolution and growth from your stuckness or whatever, you will get called to different things. And for me, it definitely has been plant medicines has helped my body heal my nervous system and some of my depression. So that would definitely have to be a part 2, because I haven't spoken about on here much of my journeys, but I'm keen to do so, and I'd love to ask you about some of your plant medicine journeys. So anybody that's interested in plant medicine, you're going to have to wait, and we will definitely do a part 2 on.
But I will give one little teaser on this, if I may.
Of course.
I had the great privilege of working with a benefactor in South America, and he knew all the properties of all the plants, which are obviously so many in that environment. And I asked him, how do you know that this plant is good for this, or this plant is good for that? And he genuinely looked at me as if, what a stupid question. I said, how do you know that that plant was beneficial for that? And he said, the plant told me.
I know, so connected.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah.
Something that wouldn't occur to a Westerner, because plants can't communicate. They're not.
He felt it. He knew.
Yeah, they're not highly evolved individuals like us whiteys. But
yeah, I believe it.
But no, he said
the plant told him.
Yeah, the plant told me, and he said it in such a way as if, are you that silly to not comprehend that?
And I do believe that, and I do want to go into that spiritual journey with you, because I've been called to plant, and my intuition has called me to different things at different times. And if that's a bit too much for you, then don't tune into the next one. But I'm definitely going to talk about it, because it's definitely had a huge impact on my life.
I think people
they're going to be curious.
I think people will find great interest in it, because well, all of us use plants. If nothing else, for our vegetables, for our diet. But when we start to realize that there are benefits above and beyond simple nutrition or simple physical nutrition, there's a mental nutrition that can be accessed through plants. I think that's a very important
I think our listeners need to know it. So yeah, I can't wait. It's been beautiful having you in the studio. We're going to have another one. We will. And stay tuned. Look at all the links underneath to follow us both on socials. And if you actually have a meditation that you'd like us to create, please let us know. Or if you want to get in contact with Matthew to create your own music or your own backings, if you're a meditation or a hypnotherapist yourself, please do. And my whole thing about the Nichole Show is really showcasing other people so that you guys can learn from them as well. So please hit us up, and we will be back with another episode for you super soon.
I really look forward to it. I've never had a dull moment with you, have I?
Well, I don't think we either have. No, we haven't.
We enjoy each other's company, and we learn from each other. 100%. And we like to share.
We do, 100%. We're both teachers, so I hope you found this beautiful, and we can't wait to see your reviews and ask us any questions. So unconditional love to you all, and we'll see you again super soon.